Hey, this is Allison Roth. I am doing my book summary on Beautiful Child by Tori Hayden. Um, this is a story that takes place with special education teacher Tori. His five main students that remain in the special education classroom full days are Billy, Jesse, Zane, Shane, and Venus. Zane and Shane are twins. Um, Tori's a special education teacher that teaches the children. He has challenges in each student that he faces and addresses individually. He also has to take control of the whole group and try to get them to function acceptably and to get along in the process. He shows great patience in all that he does and remains stern but caring. He's honest with the children and addresses each situation as it arises to the best of his ability to reach each child's individual needs. Um, this falls in line with observing, assessing, and meeting individual needs of each student. He's willing to look back to his experiences in the past as well as learn new ideas and ways that will be effective in teaching the children. He addresses the big issue of fighting with the group first and does that throughout the entire story, actually. He establishes a system after trial and error, which is a behavior modification system. Um, that helps the students show progress in controlling their behavior, as does music. When they seem intense or need um, just to relax, he starts singing some sort of music. Then they all join in and they are happy again. But by the end or along the time, it brings the children closer together. They begin to look out for each other, they accept each other, and they become friends. The boys at the beginning were constantly in behavior. They were constantly fighting. At one point, he took their shoes and made them go in the classroom without their shoes so they wouldn't hurt each other. So he had to use ways like this that were creative to reach each child at their level and try to get them to be able to function with the other kids, and try to get them to learn and be able to coexist and eventually get along with other students and peers and adults. Um, Billy begins the story with uncontrolled behavior as he fights with everyone at every chance he gets. He doesn't want to be at the school, and he's quick to say whatever enters his mind, which is usually insults to another student. Um, his words are unkind and unfiltered, and his willingness to fight backs up his behavior. Tori sets up limits for Billy from the start. He progresses through the story, and after tests show that he actually has a high IQ but struggles in math and especially reading. Teacher adjusts his material for Billy at that point to begin to challenge him. Um, Begins to change with Tori's persistence. He begins to follow the rules and speak less harshly and become friends with his classmates. He looks out for the twins as like an older brother would. He accepts Jesse and all his tics. Um, he talks openly with his classmates and teachers and becomes a peer that's able to help students, provide learning through his ability to talk through and explain things instead of get mad right away. Um, so all the other students are very similar to Billy in the fact that this teacher works with them. He gets them to progress, even in the toughest case of Venus. Venus is at the school, and she is basically mute. She doesn't speak or interact with anything. She spends most of her days if she's in the classroom, she's just sitting. She's not participating. He physically had to lift her hand if he wanted her to hold a crayon. He'd put the crayon in her hand or tilt her head down if he was reading to her, or she wouldn't interact at all. Um, on the playground, she often sat on the wall, but if somebody got too close to her, she did react. She reacted aggressively. She would chase them, um, fight with them, attack them, and while she did it, she'd scream. So through this observation, Tori kind of got an indication that she may be able to talk. She may have less disabilities, but nobody really knew what her disabilities were. Um, so throughout the book, Tori just displayed extreme patience, as uses and used techniques that he could to be able to get Venus to respond and speak. She had an incident on the playground which sent her to homebound school for a while, and then she returned due to a family. She had a tough family, so returned to his to the special education classroom, and he just was happy to see her. He welcomed her back. He was persistent. He stuck with her, and he knew her home life wasn't good, so collaboration with parents and family wasn't his best option at the time. So he just spent time with her and showed her that he cared. He used different strategies to get her to respond. All of them had to be repeated for some time before he even got the slightest response from her. He was patient. He did not give up on her when others said we can't win all cases. But he showed the belief that every child is teachable. His persistence paid off in the end. Um, Even after an accident, she started to come around. His persistence, he learned about her abilities and he worked with them. He challenged her, um, consistency and strategies. And by the end of the story, she was talking, doing some schoolwork, began walking again. So, um, this shows the patience and consistency, and I hope now you can see that this story is about overcoming obstacles and being placed in a classroom where the help is there that is needed, and your goals can be reached. So, as you now can understand, the story is about characters with disabilities, not only in behavioral disorders but in other aspects, and a teacher that used extreme patience, strategy, and methods of teaching that fit into their life and that they could understand and relate to. He reached each child where they were and created a predictable, caring, and consistent environment for them. He chose appropriate practice to help them learn and develop skills to the level in which they were each capable, and he expected where each of them was. He had high expectations for them and kept them in place. He knew their disabilities and how to adjust his teaching and techniques so that it was fit for the student. He used group activities to help them burn off energy, as they all had high activity levels that affected their concentration. He spoke with them openly and honestly. He'd sit with them in a group and talk so that they were all involved in participating. He used things they enjoyed as a daily routine, such as music and group debriefing at the end of the day. He provided hands-on activities that pertained to daily life, and at times, to get their mind off things, he'd take them on imaginary journeys to places wherever that would fit their emotions at the time. Whatever they were feeling is a place that they would go in their imagination. So the story ends with all the students making progress. They were all friends, and they began to help and look out for each other. They enjoyed their time learning in the classroom and had proper behavior skills as well as language skills. So they each had progressed in learning. Um, Shows us that students, no matter what disability, can be taught if they're provided with the proper experiences and patience and meeting them at their level. And I hope that the book itself is a lot better than the summary just was. I would encourage everybody to read it. I really did like it. Um, got a little of everything in there. So that's the summary of Beautiful Child.